The playground was a battlefield of dust and laughter. Boys in crisp blazers circled like predators, their shadows long against the orange spill of the afternoon sun. In the center, on her hands and knees, was Ilara, her school blouse wrinkled, her skirt smeared with dirt. She looked so small, so fragile, the perfect prey for boys who thrived on the weakness of others. Marcus, the ringleader, held himself with the smug confidence of someone who had never been challenged. His tie was loose, his grin cruel. He crouched low, scooping up a handful of dry earth, letting it crumble slowly between his fingers. "Eat it," he said, his voice loud enough to make the others laugh. "Come on, freak. You want to stay in this school? Then show us you belong on the ground where you came from." The boys erupted with cruel cheers. Some stomped the dirt near her hands, trying to scare her. Others mocked her silence. Ilara kept her eyes down, her chestnut hair falling forward like a curtain. To anyone watching, she looked like a cornered rabbit, trembling, helpless. But what no one could see, what none of them could possibly understand, was the storm building inside her. Every breath was measured. Every tremor in her fingers was not weakness but restraint. For years, Ilara had trained her body to perfection, shaping her instincts into weapons. Her father, once a ghost-like assassin whispered about in underworld circles, had carved her childhood into something sharper, colder, and infinitely more dangerous than anyone could imagine. But she had buried that life. She had come to this quiet town, to this school, hoping for peace. Hoping to be nothing more than a shy girl invisible at the back of the classroom. And now, surrounded by laughter, with the taste of humiliation pressed against her lips, she knew that peace was breaking. Marcus leaned closer, shoving the dirt under her chin. "Do it," he hissed. "Or I'll make you." The other boys roared in encouragement, their jeers bouncing off the concrete walls of the playground. The noise blurred in Ilara's ears. Instead, she heard something else. A voice from long ago, sharp and commanding. "Strength isn't the noise you make. It's the silence you hold until it's time." Her master's voice. Ilara closed her eyes. And when she opened them again, everything changed. Before I go further, if stories like this hold you captive, if you hunger for tales that blend suspense, emotion, and moments you'll never forget, then join us here on Soul Touch Stories. Subscribe now, so you don't miss the stories that touch your soul while keeping you on the edge of your seat. Now, let's return to Ilara, and the moment her mask began to shatter. She rose, not slowly, not weakly, but with sudden, liquid grace. Her hand shot up, gripping Marcus's wrist in a flash. Before he even realized what had happened, she twisted, the crack of his joint snapping the air. With a sharp pivot, she hurled him over her shoulder. Marcus's body slammed into the dirt with a thud that silenced every laugh around them. The world seemed to stop. The dust he kicked up hung in the air like smoke. "What the?" one of the boys muttered, stepping back. Ilara's chest heaved, but her eyes, once timid, burned with a focus that cut like steel. Another boy lunged at her, fists swinging wildly. She sidestepped, her movements fluid, almost elegant, and swept his legs from under him with one clean kick. He crashed to the ground, gasping for breath. A third tried to grab her from behind. Without looking, Ilara ducked, spun, and slammed her elbow into his ribs, sending him sprawling. Every motion was calculated, efficient, unstoppable. Years of training surged through her veins. The hidden life she had tried to bury exploded to the surface, undeniable and terrifying. The remaining boys froze, their bravado evaporating. The girl they thought was weak, shy, invisible, was something else entirely? Marcus groaned in the dirt, staring up at her with wide, horrified eyes. What are you?" he choked out. Ilara crouched low, her voice quiet but razor-sharp. "The last person you'll ever underestimate." She let him go. She brushed the dust from her skirt, standing tall in the center of the stun circle. For the first time since stepping into this school, Ilara wasn't the invisible girl. She was the fire they had tried to smother and failed. The whispers began the very next day. Students leaned into each other in hallways, their eyes darting toward her with curiosity and fear. She took down 5 guys. No one even saw her move. She's dangerous. Teachers asked questions, but Ilara offered no answers. She wanted silence, not attention. But attention clung to her like a shadow. And shadows had always followed her. One evening, walking home under the dim glow of street lamps, Ilara felt it again, that prickling at the back of her neck. A black car crawled behind her, too slow to be casual. She turned corners, quickened her pace. The car followed. Her pulse tightened. When she reached the narrow alley near her apartment, she stopped. She knew running wouldn't help. The door opened. A man stepped out tall, dressed in a sharp suit that gleamed even in the darkness. His face was pale, unreadable, his presence commanding. "Ilara," he said simply, as though her name belonged to him. Her stomach turned cold. "You've been hiding," he continued, his voice smooth, practiced. "But you know the truth. The world doesn't let ghosts rest. Your father's enemies, they've found you." Her fists clenched at her sides. "What do you want from me?" The man's lips curved into the faintest smile. "To remind you that peace is an illusion. You were born into shadows. And shadows always come home." That night, Ilara sat on her bed, the silence of her small apartment pressing in. Her fingers traced the faint scars along her arms. Reminders of training that had been more punishment than practice. She thought about her father. The assassin who had forged her life in steel and fear, then vanished like smoke. She hated him. She missed him. She wished, more than anything, that she could have been ordinary. But she wasn't. And now, because of one fight, the mask had cracked. At school, Marcus avoided her at first. His pride was shattered. Yet slowly, something changed. He didn't laugh at her anymore. He didn't push or mock. In stolen moments, he glanced at her with something like guilt. Then one day, as they walked out of class, he fell into step beside her. "I deserved what you did," he muttered, not meeting her eyes. Ilara said nothing. "My dad, he always says I have to be tough. That if I'm not the one in control, I'm nothing." His voice wavered. "I thought making you weak made me strong. But it didn't. It just made me like him." For a long moment, Ilara didn't respond. But inside, something softened. She recognized his words. She recognized the weight of living under a shadow not of your choosing. For the first time, Marcus wasn't her bully. He was just another broken child. But shadows weren't finished with her. One rainy night, she returned home to find her door ajar. Her heart seized. She stepped inside, the floor creaking under her shoes. Her apartment was destroyed, drawers overturned, books torn apart, her few precious belongings scattered like trash. And carved into the wall, with a knife that still dripped faintly. "You can't hide what you are." Her chest constricted. The past had found her. Running wasn't an option anymore. The final confrontation came beneath the pale glow of schoolyard lights, long after classes had ended. Rain slicked the dirt into mud, the same ground where she had first been humiliated. Shadows moved in the mist. Men in black, silent and lethal, surrounded her. Ilara stood alone, her breath clouding in the night air. Then, from behind her, Marcus appeared. His hands trembled, but he stood beside her anyway. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "Yes, I do," he said, his voice shaking. "Because for once, I don't want to be the coward." The men advanced. And then, everything erupted. The fight was chaos turned into art. Ilara's body moved like lightning, every strike a memory, every block a scar reborn. She ducked under a blade, twisted, and sent one attacker crashing into another. Rain plastered her hair to her face as she spun, her fists and feet a blur. Marcus wasn't trained, but he was brave. He shoved one man back, taking a hit to the face that sent him sprawling. Ilara's scream tore the night as she saw him fall, and in that scream, every chain she had carried snapped. She unleashed everything. Every lesson of pain, every shadow of her father's training, every ounce of fire in her soul. The men collapsed, one by one, until the yard was a graveyard of groans and broken ambition.
And then, silence.
Ilara dropped to her knees beside Marcus. Blood trickled from his lip, his eye swollen, but he grinned through the pain. "Remind me," he coughed, "never to mess with you again." She laughed through tears, holding his hand. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just fighting to survive. She was fighting for connection, for something fragile and real. If Ilara's journey moved you, her courage, her fight, her breaking free of the shadows, then let your voice join ours. Like, comment, and subscribe to Soul Touch Stories. Here, every tale isn't just told. It's lived.